Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast. My name's Stu Hardy, and joining me always is the layman sports kingmaker for the North, Derek Brissett. Now, some fans will have noticed that a certain host isn't here tonight. Daniel is away this week. It's his birthday on Friday, but it's his wife's birthday today. And seeing as he wants to be alive for his own birthday on Friday, he's decided to spend the day with his darling wife. So, Kat, happy birthday. And Dan, by the time this comes out, it'll be your birthday. So this is a special birthday treat for you. Happy birthday, my man. But Derek, you're here with me. So how you been, man? It's been a while.
I'm good. I just want to say to Kat, I hope she's enjoying the new car that Dan got him, or that Dan got her.
No. Didn't you hear? He, I think it was Bahamas or Jamaica, nice. Somewhere in the Caribbean. I only got like the brief details.
The car's in the Caribbean. Is that what you're saying?
No, the car's for now. That's for later. But I'm just
jealous that Dan gave you that Alfa Romeo hat after he picked up the car from the dealership. So I didn't even get anything there.
Well, he did intend to get tickets to the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend, but the 2 weeks you have to isolate when you get back, it wouldn't have worked out. So, Caribbean adventure once the restrictions are lifted. So hope you enjoy that, Kat.
Yeah, I know. Kat sounds like a blast. I wish I could come along, but just enjoy that time with Dan. And new car, Caribbean trip. You can't complain, right? I like how you kind of used Dan's intro, but I think you kind of made it better there, Stu. Maybe this is something we got to look at going into the future here. I don't know. How did it feel? Did it feel good? It's the first time you've done it.
Yeah, I feel powerful now. Feel in control of everything.
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyway, come on. We got a lot to talk about. But yeah, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks now, Derek?
Yeah, it's been a while. All right, so I did though. Even though Dan's not here, I did decide that we should continue Dan's apparently favorite tradition on this podcast, which is starting the podcast by talking about a sport that is not rugby. Mm-hmm. So I figured we'd dive in. Obviously, we are a Canadian podcast, and as members of the Canadian sports media, I feel like we are obligated to mention the Stanley Cup Playoffs because, Canada hockey. Mm-hmm. The Leafs and Habs play each other for the first time in the playoffs since 1979. Shout out to the MLR schedule maker for giving the Arrows a bye week during this, I'm sure, going to be brief 4-game series. The Leafs will kick Montreal's butt. But one of the things that did happen earlier this week was game 1 between the Tampa Bay Lightning and Florida Panthers, which, Stu, did you happen to catch this game?
Unfortunately, I was working at the time, so you're going to have to fill in the details.
You're always working now. That's why
of course.
Yeah, that's why you're only on every other podcast now. Either way, so this game, Tampa won 5-4. A goal by Braden Point in, I think, within the final 90 seconds or so of the game. Nice breakaway goal. And it was a super exciting game. It was one of those games where it was back and forth all the time. Tampa was winning, then Florida was winning, then Tampa came back and was winning. Florida came back and tied it. Tampa eventually got the game winner. Both teams had just under 40 shots. The goalies stood on their heads. Amazing pace. The crowd, which, I mean, crowds are back and it's kind of fun, not gonna lie. It was electric, probably because it's sports with fans for the first time in a while, and it was great. But a lot of the chatter on social media after this game was about how was basically just people saying it was how awesome would that have been if that was the first hockey game you ever saw, and then people continually also being that's the game I'm going to show my non-hockey fan friends to be if you don't like this, I fully give up on trying to convince you to watch hockey. Or if you've never seen hockey, that's what you would want. Everyone's that's what your first game should be. Just immense pace, the physicality of the hits, the speed. Some of the goals in this game were gorgeous too. Just a high level of skill. But with everybody talking about after the game and saying hey, if I had a friend that never watched hockey before, this would be one of the games that I would show them. it kind of got me thinking. So I wanted to start the podcast, Stu, with you. And unlike Dan, I am going to loop my discussion of a non-rugby sport back into rugby here.
All right. Okay. I'll allow it.
Yeah, you'll allow. All right. So my question is, much like hockey fans spent the immediate reaction following this Panthers Lightning game, saying that like if they had friends that have never watched hockey before, this would be the game that they would show them, or it would be one of the games that they would show them. I'm sure people sat down and really thought about it. They might pick a couple other ones throughout the history of hockey, but it got me thinking. So I wanted to start the podcast with this. Stu, if you have a friend that has never seen a rugby game before, which game are you showing them? Can be a test match, can be any league competition around the world. Can be, I don't know, can be, your high school game back in Wales. I have no idea. This might have been some classics there. I don't know. Any game though, you get one. You get to make one first impression on a fan.
Okay.
I feel like this is the rugby version of determining like which order you show your kids Star Wars, but which is a completely different discussion. We could probably talk for like 2 hours on that on its own. But which game are you showing for the first time?
Okay, so if there's because I had two games in mind, but seeing as you've only said one.
Oh no, no, okay, no. Open discussion. You want to bring up two games that you're thinking? Which games are you thinking? Like what's in that?
Okay. So I have one that's like club level and one that's like test level. So I'll start with like the club level game, and it's got to be for me Champions Cup 2017, I believe, and Saracens versus Ospreys. So if you're a newbie, this is the first game you've watched. All you would have heard prior to coming to this, because I'm gonna go out on a limb and say like the basic rules, like a try is this much, and you can't pass the ball forward and stuff like that. You would have known that Saracens, one of the strongest teams in the Premiership at the time, and because this is the first round of the European competition that year, you can't really indicate how it's going to go because they haven't played any non-English competition at the time, and they're going up against the Ospreys. Ospreys, you'll be told, they were great back in the day, but they haven't won anything since 2012. They've had a really bad season. They're starting off poorly in the Pro 14. So, and all your friends are saying like, we're going to expect this to be like a 50-0 by halftime to Saracens. At halftime, it was 17-all. So expectations immediately, not so much thrown out the window as jettisoned into the sun. You've also got like internationals. There's obviously like Owen Farrell was playing for Saracens at the time. Liam Williams was for Saracens as well. On the other side, Dan Bigger. So it's basically like the English first choice fly half up against the Welsh first choice fly half as well. And in a game where the Ospreys should have been destroyed, Saracens only won by 34 points to 32. So even like the losing team went away with not only the try bonus point, but losing bonus point. And great atmosphere. Am I a little bit biased because I was there for that game? Maybe.
Ooh, but I think that makes it fun though. Like it's a little bit of a special bond moment to you. I was surprised that you picked the Saracens Ospreys game though, where the Saracens won. Although there's not too many where the Ospreys won. But
that is a fair point because the second fixture was a 15-all draw in the rain, and I don't think any new fan should be. However, a draw game that I would recommend, especially at test level, is the 2019 Calcutta Cup match between England and Scotland. And again, you'd say you go in, you're not Scottish, you're not English, you're a pure neutral at this point. This game has no bearing on the championship itself because Wales had already won it at that point. You go in and it's an absolute try-fest. But not only that, it's a come from behind near victory for Scotland, only to be undone with the final play. But, no one who wasn't English or Scottish, hated that game. For the neutral fan, it was like try after try. And then all of a sudden it's like a turnaround. So you're like, oh, I'll pick England because England are doing well in the first half. And like, wait, what's this? Scotland are coming back. What's Finn Russell doing? Oh my God, what's going on?
I feel like every game there's at least one fan that reacts with, what is Finn Russell doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's good or bad, it's someone's.
I think that's why there's a new Heart Wars being opened in Scotland, so people can learn how to have better heart health after watching Finn Russell play. Well, but those are my 2 picks. Do you have anything in mind?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there's so many. It's weird because it was like, I think you are kind of onto something in a weird way. Like, I feel like, even with the thing that got me thinking about this, it was like, that's a like 5-4 hockey game. It's decently high scoring. It's not crazy, but like, and with you saying like the 2 games that you kind of picked here, you were like, I think you used the word tri-fest at one point during your description there. And in all honesty, I had not seen this game until COVID, because, the one weirdly nice thing, I guess, I don't know if you can say there's a nice thing about COVID, I guess. But it's like the one like weird thing is it's like there was that stretch where no sports anywhere in the world were happening. So sports organizers were just like, let's just put up a bunch of old games, classic games. And the All Blacks put up a full game on their channel. The first test of the Bledisloe Cup, All Blacks Australia, year 2000. So I'm assuming by your reaction you are aware of what game I'm talking about.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so I watched it in full for like the first time because they put it up on YouTube like this past year, and like my I don't know, my like mouth was just like dropped like the whole game. It's it was this like the All Blacks go up. I think it's 21-0, 20, like super quick. Australia comes back, and then by the end of the half, it's tied. And then it's just like them trading tries for the second half. Like tons of like legendary players in it, like Umaga, Cullen, Lomu, Mertens on the All Blacks, Latham Mortlock, Gregan on the Wallabies, and like, yeah, man, it's just unreal. It's like you get the big hits, you get the physicality, you get to like, I mean, if someone was new to it, it's like you could be like this Lomu guy was like the reason why rugby is popular in a lot of parts of the world, because this guy's a monster and he plays really well in that game too, and gets the game-winning try after the final horn too. So that game's nuts. But I was also kind of like, if you were trying to get somebody to be like a new fan now, it's like I don't know if showing a game from like 21 years ago would be necessarily the best option. Although I'm like, I think people, although I'm like, that's one of the best games ever. But maybe you got to be a little bit more of a fan to like appreciate it. I don't know if it'd be like your best first game. I think like, I guess maybe some like more recent ones. I think anything from the Lions All Blacks Test series in 2009 or 2017 was really good. So I could go for that. I was kind of debating the like Springboks Japan game from the World Cup, but I feel like because that game's amazing. But yeah, I was also questioning. It's like obviously like Karen Hesketh's game-winning try at the end of the game, biggest upset in rugby history. But I'm like, is that another thing that it's like for a new fan? Is that too much context to understand why that's so cool, or can it stand alone on itself? I thought because I don't know. I guess my brain went to like international stuff. But like I was thinking, the All Blacks Ireland game from 2013, where the All Blacks were going for their perfect calendar year, and Ireland trying to get that win, and then that ending is crazy with Ireland like charging the kick too soon, so Cruden gets 2 shots at the actual game-winning conversion. I think like if you wanted to go with like a real recent one, especially since there hasn't been a ton of rugby in the past year, All Blacks England World Cup semifinal, I feel like that'd be a super fun game, maybe for a new fan. Kind of like in the same sense that people were being like, we would show this Lightning Panthers game because it's super and it's a good depiction of what like the current state of the game looks like. So I don't know. Those are some games I kind of thought of off the top of my head. I think if you're going like an MLR game, I'd throw in the drop goal game. And then the game that happened after the drop goal game, the Rooney San Diego semifinal, I think would also be up there for me if you're just going with some MLR games. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a ton of fun. I would love to hear from everybody else too. Like, if you got a game that we didn't mention, or even like I'm always down to watch some classic rugby too. If you got something from even older than 2000 that would be fun to watch, like send us a message. Let us know. You can find us at Rouge Rugby pretty much all across social media. So fire a message away. Let us know what games we should be watching. What game would you show your friends that aren't into rugby yet to try to get them into rugby?
All right. And speaking of MLR games, we're going to talk about the most recent ones at time of recording, because in an hour and a half, a new one will be kicking off. Let's focus on the one that we're more invested in, the Houston versus Toronto game that happened at the same time as two other games on Saturday. As you can tell by my tone, completely love the fact that I have to have three screens going at once. But let's talk about that. It was I don't know about you, Derek, but I was a ball of nerves when that game was going on. And looking back, I can be like, what was I so nervous about? And
what were you nervous about? What was giving you trouble?
Well, obviously the Fire and Ice Cup is now in the hands of Atlanta because of that last minute try. The previous game against New Orleans, they actually left without even a losing bonus point. So I think this was a long overdue victory for the Arrows. And because of Houston's incredible defense, I think that, this was an earned victory as opposed to, say, in previous seasons when, you could beat Houston by 20 points or so. So I think so. I'd like to compliment Houston for obviously coming so far.
Houston played Toronto real tight in 2022.
Oh yeah, but I think
that came down to the final play of the game.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Toronto finished that game with 13 players on the field, I believe, and 14. So obviously, it's a little bit different. But I see where you're coming from, as in they had definitely improved, and this was a game where whoever had the better defense won out. So. And Houston did have a strong defense, and it was only just it was fractured by Della, Vega, and Diana with their tries. And although I think Montero's was just, hot potato into his hands, and then
that was a nice try.
2 steps and he's already over the try line because he's so tall. And then of course the Mike Shepherd special, but for Houston in the final 5 minutes, which was like, you know what? It's happened in Toronto's favor twice this season. Maybe it can happen to another team.
You know what though? Like, I think, I feel like with that try though, like looking at this game, it's like, Houston's defense obviously played very well, and I think like Toronto's defense also played incredibly well. Like, I mean, realistically, like you look at it, they allowed 1 penalty and to Sam Windsor. And the try is a charge down.
Yeah.
Right. It's like Houston with ball in hand, didn't really generate much of anything. They had that one opportunity where Dicky Lottie, who I thought played a great game.
Oh yeah, no. Great to see him back from injury as well, and performing so well.
He's a monster, man. It's like he just immediately makes Houston better. But like he kind of had a nice little move, and then he kicked it through, and the ball rolls into the in goal area, and it was just a race between Boyer and Mirez.
Yeah,
and Mirez got to the ball first, right? But like other than that, like that was, I think, the closest Houston really got to having like a legitimate like scoring threat. And then obviously like the try they scored is just like, full credit to Garber for getting in position to have that charge down. I'm sure Parfrey might want that one back, but it is what it is. But it's like that's like how they got their points on the board. So it's like the defense was obviously solid.
Yeah,
Houston's.
I'm gonna say about Mirez's try saver. It definitely didn't help that the commentators were saying that, and it's a try for Houston. I was like, is it though? Is it?
Yeah.
The ref hasn't even put his arm up for the try. I'm like, nah.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, like it's. On TV, I like it looked like it was Mirez for sure that like got there first. Like I don't know if it's just like maybe where they were sitting in the stadium or whatever, but yeah, like that was that was I think the best scoring chance that Houston had all game, which says a lot for the way the Arrows D played. But I think part of the Arrows D that was so good was the fact that Houston never had the ball, especially in the first, like literally did not.
That is true. It's like the reverse situation of against Nola in the second half.
The end of the game totals were the Arrows had 64% territory and 59% possession, but like I didn't see the first half split of that, and I'm sure it was higher. Like because Houston got the ball in the second half. I'm like Houston played better in the second half, I think, at least with the ball. But it was like the first 20 minutes of this game, like in all honesty, I think the cameramen at Aviva Stadium could have been forgiven for like literally just pointing the camera at the 22, and like they could have gone to the snack bar, had a beer, just left, and nobody would have even noticed, because that's what the entire opening 20 minutes. Right from the opening, basically the opening kickoff, when Windsor put the ball out on the full, which is just the most un-Sam Windsor thing you could possibly.
Wasn't the only team to do that, but we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, weird. But
yeah, I think that may have set the precedent for
exactly.
Houston that game.
Like, and literally, like I wrote in my notes for this game, like the next time, like, so the ball is in the air, technically over Toronto territory, but I guess obviously because the scrum. So like Brody takes the ball out of the back of the scrum and the Arrows enter the SaberCats half. The next time the ball is in Toronto's half, other than after Montero scores and Houston kicks the ball back to them or whatever, is in the 26th minute, when Tyler Rowland gets called for not rolling away on a tackle, and Houston, then Sam Windsor kicks the ball to touch somewhere, I think it was like around the Arrows 22.
Yeah.
It took like at least for any meaningful time, it took 26 minutes. And even at that, I think if I recall correctly, the Arrows turned the ball over or earned a penalty like on the first phase after that line out too. Right. So it was like they didn't, like, Houston just didn't touch the ball. And, I think when you kind of look at the game and the stats in general, like any team that has 64% territory, 59% possession, and makes 89%, so just under 90% of their tackles, what more do you want? Like the other you're not, like, in all honesty, you're not gonna lose if you do that. Like, you're not gonna lose. But if the other team never has the ball, and when they do have the ball, your defense steps up and shuts them down anyways. Like Rumball, Della, Vega, Diana dominant at the rucks. Quatrin was good at the rucks. Paul Chilini apparently teleports in between rucks. He had 31 ruck arrivals, the monster. Rumball had more total ruck arrivals or whatever, but like apparently the Arrows just like have portals that they can implement and just bounce to rucks. So like Chilini was outstanding at the ruck. Quatrin was making tackles. Everybody that was like on defense, like I can't even pretend to think of like a bad play someone made on defense. If you want to get like super critical, maybe like a penalty, because they gave up a couple penalties, but like nothing crazy, and certainly no penalties where Houston was really able to take advantage of and score, other than that one Windsor penalty. So it's like, if you can do that, like you're not going to lose very many games if the other team can't touch the ball And when they do, your defense shuts them down. Like, you're not losing a whole lot of rugby games doing that. That being said, though, like, same thing, like with Houston, like I thought Houston's defense was great. It made me feel bad because I said like that they were like the 12th ranked defense in the league going into this game. And then I was also like, I've made other picks being like, I don't think Houston's defense is very good. And then Houston's defense was like, fine, Derek, if you don't think it's very good.
Yeah, they took personal offense to that.
Yeah, we're going to play our best defensive game against the Toronto Arrows. Like, I mean, realistically, from the opening half of this game, I think if you're the like, what's the only complaint that you would really have with the is like maybe you wish there was more points on the board.
Yeah.
Right. Like there was the one play that Will Kelly looked to put Spencer Jones away. I think it was in like the 3rd or the 4th minute. And just handling error, just drop the ball.
Yeah.
And it's okay, so maybe you want a couple more points, but it's like at the same time, like I will take any stretch of play where it's essentially 20 minutes inside the other team's 22.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we have been talking about the positives, and now we need to talk on to things that we think that the team can improve on. Obviously, they're not playing next week, but they will be up against the Free Jacks on May 29th. So I think one of the issues for me is, and I think it's like you mentioned, there was like handling errors. First of all, there was it's very hot temperatures combined with high humidity. It was like 75% humidity.
I think the commentators, they kept bringing up that it was really like windy.
Yeah, so
I feel like it's one of those things that never really comes across well on TV. Mainly because
there's obviously
clear and there's no real sense of like
a
flag.
You've got corner flags, you've got the touch judges flags as well. But obviously they're only up every now and again. So obviously the conditions weren't ideal for either team. I think there was a scrum at one point and every player involved looked like they had just come out of the shower. And I can see where the coaching staff was coming from in the sense of, we want to ensure that certain players get 2 weeks worth of rest, such as like having Taylor Adams like out of this game as a whole, like not even on the bench. And the downside of that is that because, Will Kelly hasn't started a game so far this season, he's come off the bench a few times. And even then it was with, monumental leads that the only way they could give up is if the Arrows just left the pitch with 5 minutes to go. And Pat Parfrey, I think he did pretty well as a fullback, but he is listed as a utility back on the team website, and he has performed best this year as a center. But obviously, when you're a utility player, you go where you're needed to go. So I think the inexperience is one thing, and I know we were talking about this after the game of, if these are the players that Rugby Canada says, we have halves ready to go, because, Will Pacillier is a scrum half. But either way, the idea of if these players are going to be playing for the national team and the Toronto Arrows have this connection with the national team, then they need to have more game time. And I can see in the other side of the coin is that, if your games are so close, like they were last week against the Rugby ATL, you obviously don't want to change anything and risk the flow of the game. But, these guys are going to have to start at some point. And I think we are getting to the point where we can say there are no easy games in MLR. It's not like Austin of
Eastern Conference anyways.
No, absolutely. But you can't be like Austin 2019 and just be like, they haven't won a game for an entire season, so we'll just put in like the young boys or the guys that have just come back from injury and we'll see how they'll do. And, you got to take some risks with the squad. Is there anything? So, Derek, do you think there's anything that the Arrows can do to improve?
Like from that game, like I said, man, I'm stoked with any game where the other team doesn't touch the ball like ever, and when they touch the ball, ball, they don't do anything with it. So I mean, like that's from that sense, you make 90, just under 90% of your tackles. The other team doesn't touch the ball. Like I said, you're winning a lot of rugby games if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think though, like yeah, like I don't know. I thought there was a lot of good things that happened in this game. They were able to get a couple like line out steals and stuff too. Like I know, like you said, some of the conditions weren't ideal, but they were able to really kind of make that work. I thought Will Kelly played really well in this game too. Like I think Taylor Adams, I still think is fully deserving to be of the starting 10, but I think I like the way like Kelly's distribution of the ball I thought was really good at the start. Like I said, it's like he probably could have had an early try assist. And then like, he just kind of like made some like smart plays, I felt, with the ball in hand. Also kind of knew when like, where to get involved. I thought he did quite well. I don't know if he quite has necessarily maybe like the creativity that Adams does, but I liked it in the game. And I think, it was interesting to see, like, because I think we have to have kind of eyes on who's going to be the fly half for Canada, especially now that we got, the test matches against England and Wales, and then, the World Cup qualifiers with the United States later this year too. Like we need to, that's one, I think the 10 is one of those positions where like, Kingsley Jones does have to figure out what he's going to do with that position. And I think this was a good game for like, Kelly to kind of throw his hat in the ring a little bit. And I mean, I think he did well. I think it was interesting because I think like if you kind of look at it, like the Toronto Arrows, I think clearly trusted Kelly to be like to play that proper 10 role and be like the primary like ball distributor to the backs. Worked out, and I thought it worked out well for the most part during the game. But I think in contrast, because the other guy that everyone's going to throw in the hat in the ring, though, is the guy that was on the other side in Robbie Povey. And, just because like the way the game ended up playing out, Povey, I thought did great on defense. He made a lot of like nice tackles and stuff in the backs. The thing is, though, is like, I feel like the way Houston plays, I feel like they kind of shelter him from actually being like the key, like, distributor of the ball.
Yeah, I can.
He wears a 10 jersey.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from because like some of his like personal highlight reel from this season have been him breaking away.
Yeah,
and then like either offloading or then just finding the gap himself, which is great for the try and the scoreboard, but at the same time, you need to be a team player as well. And it's like, what can you do when you're 70 meters away and kicking's not an option and breaking the line isn't?
I think Povey has like a massive boot too, and he used that a couple of times to do nice like clearance kicks, which I mean him and Windsor had to do quite a bit of because most of the game was played within their 22. But yeah, it was just like, I don't know, it's just they seem like, even like there was those plays where it was like, like Windsor would kind of like jump into the back line from fullback, and it would be like Boyer to Windsor as like the first play quite often and stuff. Then even when like when Boyer got the yellow card, Windsor jumped up to scrum half, right? It was like, it was like Houston clearly wants Boyer and Sam Windsor, regardless of what jersey number they are actually wearing. Like they clearly want those two guys touching the ball the most of everybody on the team. So it's like, I don't know, I just kind of find that interesting. I think if you're looking at, like, obviously, you still got to look overseas. There's still like Shane O'Leary still there. I guess Peter Nelson's still there too, for that 10 jersey and stuff. But I think like if you're taking that North American perspective, like with, Thiel's hurt right now. So, hit any, that might, hurt his chances of getting on the squad. Depending on how bad that injury ends up being in the long run. But, I think if you're kind of looking at like Povey and Kelly as two of the better Canadian 10s in MLR, I think, if you look at this game as them going head to head, I think round one kind of goes to Kelly if you're looking for, to kind of handicap and put in favors for that Canada 10 jersey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've mentioned a few player names. So now we're going to talk about our personal players of the match, both for Houston and both for Toronto as well. So I started the last segment. So Derek, either team, who was your player of the match for that team?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I think for Toronto, I'm sticking with I'll stick with the MVP of the entire league. It's Lucas Rumball. I think had another phenomenal game. He had, the combined, most ruck rivals combined on both sides of the ball throughout the game. Made a ton of tackles. He had 100% of his tackles made. Led the team in the most tackles. Ended it at 100%. So like that's. I think he deserves some recognition there. But at the same time, I'm like he's always good. And then I would also say, I think you also got to point out like Tommy Della Vega basically did the exact same thing as Rumball, but also set up Montero's try. He hopped out there onto the wing and he was able to kind of be that distributor there. He had some line out takes and stuff as well. So I thought he was really good. I do kind of want to point out too, like Paul Chilini, just because like his work, like in all honesty, like fully admitting or whatever, not something that I completely noticed on the first watching of the game, but once I kind of rewatched it and saw the numbers that he put up, I was just like, this dude just does not stop, man. He was literally at almost every ruck, and it was quite an impressive performance. He also had mixed in a lineout steal and stuff too. So those are, I guess 3 guys that I think deserve to be highlighted from the Arrows. Houston, I kind of thought it was a little bit of the same thing. It was like, it's interesting because I think both teams' back rows, I think, were the 3 best players on each team, which is fun, really. When as far as like a good like rugby matchup goes. So like Adrian Boyson, Diego Magno, Cecil Garber, they all when you're playing defense the whole game, you gotta make a ton of tackles, and both of them did. Nicholas Silveria also made a ton of tackles too in defense. He also seemed to be given the Arrow scrum some difficulties early in the match too. But this Arrow scrum was at 100% on the game, so I guess that's not the most difficulties that he caused, but hey. And so yeah, I think like those guys all play great. Obviously, Garber had the try, immense work rate too. I think ultimately this game it was a fun battle kind of between the 2 back rows, and Houston actually ended up with a few more breakdown steals than the Arrows, which is a huge rarity that any team managed to do that against Toronto, especially. I did look before this game started, and I haven't. I will admit that I haven't bothered to do the math on how many breakdown steals everybody across the league got this week. But like there's I think 5 teams in the league that still don't have as many total breakdown steals as Lucas Rumball does.
Yeah. I think it's like something like
getting a lineout steal in this game. I feel like there's still going to be probably at least 4 of them that still haven't got them. Maybe
I think it would. I was going to say, I think it was Brock Smith that posted on Twitter that was it Lucas Rumball has
it's got 18.
Yeah, has 18 turnovers, and the next highest in second place is 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is amazing.
That's this second place though is like 6 or 7 guys tied at 5. One of those guys is Thomas Della Vega too. So it's like the Arrows are like miles ahead of every team on still totals. But like even with that though, like Rumball, it's like the next closest guys are 5, that big group that's all tied at 5, or it was all tied at 5 going into this game. Like I probably should have actually looked at this if we were going to talk about it. But what can
we're just talking about our players in the match, so
exactly, too late.
Obviously,
But yeah, like going into this game, Rumball had more breakdown steals than San Diego, NOLA, Seattle, and Utah. Like as far as like their total combined numbers, he was equal to Austin.
Wow.
So there's teams that it's like, man, like they like there's teams that haven't had as many breakdown steals as Rumball, which is probably evident that the fact that he's got like he's got, or at least going into this week, had 13 more than anybody else in the league.
Yeah.
Which just the gap of 13 more is still higher than NOLA, Seattle, and Utah.
Yeah, well, obviously.
At least it was going into this week. So Lucas Rumball MVP is the long and short of this.
All right, fair enough. Okay. So my players of the match. For Houston, I'm gonna have to go with Sam Windsor. His experience was vital for Houston. But I agree with you. I think the entire back rows of both teams paid great dividends. Like Diggy Lani was also phenomenal, and great to see him back and playing again. And if Nick Boy had got to that ball first, I'm sure that would have swayed my decision a bit more. But it's one of the things, especially after Boyer was like sent to the bin for 10, was you need composure, you need experience, you need a player that understands and can move from his position into scrum half. So I think he had a great game. Obviously, he wasn't on the winning side, but what he could do, he did well. The exception being the kickoff to start the game. And then I'm gonna have to go with the man who has made the MLR Team of the Week. It has to be Manuel Diana. I was going through the game again and watching his try, just pushing the players back just to reach the line is monumental. And obviously, and Tommy Della Vega as well, stretching out just to first of all, breaking the tacklers and heading on through, and then just reaching out to score. That's something for the highlight reel. Absolutely.
There was 4 black jerseys draped on Thomas Della Vega when he scored that try.
Absolutely, yeah. And
neither one of them apparently mattered at all.
No.
No.
They're just a minor inconvenience at best.
Against Atlanta, was it Atlanta last week, where they forgot to cover that one side of the ruck. So
yeah,
Della Vega's.
Well, that's
the Arrows probably have the best back row in Major League Rugby.
Oh yeah. Oh, we've talked about this so many times, but it's always good to talk about it once more.
Your points. And
absolutely, and the guys have proved it, and in doing so, have earned both a well-deserved victory and a long overdue bye week.
Yeah, I know.
But there were now 5 other games that happened that weekend.
Yeah,
and that now normally I would talk about, but I don't want to talk about a game, so to speak. I don't even want to talk about a team. I want to talk about a venue, because my word is SoFi Stadium amazing. And I am insanely jealous for all 4,880 fans that were able to get tickets to see that game. Because, you know what? I'm going to call it. If the 2031 World Cup final, SoFi Stadium.
Oh man, I mean that'd be cool, man. Yeah, it looked like, maybe I'm just like, I just don't watch enough football, and if I do watch football, I'm probably not watching the Rams or the Chargers. I'm definitely not watching. But I don't even think people in LA watch the Chargers. Actually, my roommate in college was a huge Chargers fan, so I'm just more or less chirping him. But yeah, but like, I've never really paid attention to this stadium, but like, oh my God, like that screen at the top, that like,
yeah,
down, like, dude, it looked amazing. I know a couple people kind of like were ripping on like the football line still being there, and then like the post kind of had the weird thing behind it too. And
we can't complain about that. We've been to Alumni Field, we've been to Lamport Stadium. You know, you make do. You make do.
I mean, football lines do not faze me at all.
No. I think the only confusion was that the rugby lines were yellow, and then obviously the white lines. So
the only thing is, like, whenever I watch like rugby on like football, my brain still keeps my brain still keeps thinking like the out of bounds line for football is the touch line for the rugby too, and it's like I keep like mentally resetting on that. But like I'm like, yo, this game was the game was really good too.
Oh yeah. And you know, I remember saying this one time before, is that we were talking about having a TMO, and if there was going to be any team that would have TMO capabilities, it would be LA.
Yeah.
Well, we got to see a try that wasn't a try in beautiful 4K, and then it got called off because of a TMO.
Yeah.
Obviously not available to the supporter, to the fans watching around the world or on the Rugby Network. But yeah, we get to see John Ryberg fluff a try.
What did you think of that, though? I'm curious. I know we kind of butted heads on TMO, but I'm curious. What did you think of that? So I'm personally torn on it.
So I think, because ultimately what a TMO is there to do is to ensure that the correct call is made. And that's what happened, because originally the try was given and then they had to confer and then they found out it wasn't. And, you know, obviously it wouldn't have made a difference in terms of like a losing bonus point or anything like that. And then of course, LA immediately scored a try.
Like 30 seconds later too.
Yeah. So, you know, swings and roundabouts, but
the thing is though, is just like, I don't know. I'm torn on this though, because I think on one hand, like, you're correct. And Ryberg, like, even I believe it was Dan Power on the call, like, they saw it immediately, right? Like that Ryberg dropped the ball when he went to ground, and Ryberg 100% dropped that ball.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And that thing is, like, he stands up and all the LA players are coming around to congratulate him.
Yeah.
But his face is stone cold. He knows that he dropped that ball. He knows that wasn't a try.
And I think too, because it was like, I think also like LA didn't put up much of a fuss about it either.
Yeah.
But it was like, the reason I'm torn on it though is just, it's like that try counts in every other MLR stadium. Because
yes.
Right. So like, I think that's because, you know, if you listen to it with Derek Summers on his mic, he was kind of like, you know, they're showing the replay. The, you know, commentary team is analyzing the try. It's like, oh, like Goddard did this really well and Ryberg was open down the wing, blah, blah, blah. Right. And as they're kind of doing that, you kind of hear Summers be like, kind of does the double blow the whistle, stalls for the time to come off. And, you know, calls the captains over. And he was just like, look, like, I think he says, like, there's 12 screens here. Like, I can't ignore this. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't ignore it. I can't, like, play on. And I'm kind of like, it's like, we can't, like, you know, because Utah's freaking out. And I mean, they should be, like, realistically.
Yeah, entirely.
Yeah. They're justified. I'm not saying like, and it's just like, and like, that's kind of why I'm torn on it, is because as like, I'm almost like, should Derek Summers, or like, should everyone have just been like, hey man, there's no TMO in this league. Like, we can't reverse that call. Right. Like, I know it's on this gigantic 4K TV because we're in a $5 billion state of the art NFL stadium right now. And you know what I mean? But it's like, hey, like, the rules are rules, right? Like, I can't reverse it. But I guess, you know, they ended up doing, and like, I don't know. I think that's kind of why I'm torn on it though. It's just like, at the end of the day, it's the right call, which is a good thing. Yeah. But it's also just like, I think, you know, it should be a bit of a gray area, I think, because I think on one hand, you know, it's the right call. But it's like, on the other hand, it's like, I think you either have to play either in the rules of a league competition throughout an 18-week schedule plus playoffs. I think you either have to play with every game has TMO or no games have TMO. And I don't think you can play with some games have TMO if you happen to be in a really nice stadium or whatever.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from.
Not TMO, but like, if that game, for example, was at Lamport Stadium, right?
Yeah, no chance.
That try counts.
Yeah.
There's no screens anywhere. And I'm not 100% sure about every other stadium in Major League Rugby because I haven't been to all of them. And sometimes you just can't see them on TV. So I don't know how many actually have screens and stuff.
Well, something from...
If I'm the Giltinis and you're going to go back there, I'd tell all the scoreboard guys to not put replays of tries up.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing is, and I know this from working in rugby TV production in the UK, is that the TMO unit and like the replay cameras and things like that, because they're not always the same as the broadcast cameras, and that's why when it's test matches you get like 5 different angles of if a try was okay or not. But those are obviously like 5 different guys working those different angles, those different cameras, trying to find that stuff. But it's the same reason why, say, for example, at SoFi, we didn't have like a spider cam up in the rafters to get like cinematic shot, because this is something I found out.
Over a scrum?
Yeah. Well, this is something I found out, is that imagine a standard Six Nations test match with all the cameras they have around, adding a spider cam doubles the entire budget of that broadcast production.
They're expensive.
Absolutely. And you know what else is expensive? Having a TMO and having all the cameras required for a TMO. So I think I remember for 2020, the league said that the playoffs would have TMO availability. That doesn't necessarily mean that you could see it in the crowd, because not all like monitors will have the ability to show like the live stream. Like, I know at Alumni Field, for example, they definitely didn't have those capabilities. But if you can, so let's say that they do carry it over for 2021 and it's only like 3 games, is then you could then have a TMO for like the Eastern Conference Final and the Western Conference Final, and then depending on which conference hosts the grand final, so let's say hypothetically,
the problem is still like you need a stadium that can do it.
Well, you just need places to put cameras and a OB truck, really. So you could do it at Lamport Stadium. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could do it. But yeah. But I do understand where you come from, of like saying like it has to be. It's either okay for all or it's okay for none.
Well, to me, it's either all or none.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the reason I'm torn is because at the end of the day, that's the right call, though. So, hey everyone, just listening back to that conversation that Stu and myself had regarding the John Ryberg try that was called back by Derek Summers during the LA-Utah game this past weekend. I feel like we just kind of used the word TMO a little too much during that conversation. So I just kind of wanted to make sure it was clear that obviously there wasn't an actual TMO at this game. It was just that, Derek Summers saw the play on one of the screens inside SoFi Stadium. So, we probably used the word TMO a little bit too much during that segment because that wasn't really what the original conversation was about. I just figured I'd jump in for a quick second just to clear up any confusion on that. What actually happened is, of course, Derek Summers just saw the play on the screen, realized it was a knock on, and decided to reverse it. I'm still torn on if that was the right decision or if he should have been allowed to do that. But at the end of the day, it's the right call. So I suppose it's a good thing, but it couldn't happen in every stadium. So that's the other side of the argument still. So I'm personally still torn, but I just want to kind of clear it up that, in case, because we use the word TMO probably a little too often there, that, obviously there was no actual TMO at the game. So I just figured I'd jump in and clear that up a little bit in case there's any confusion. Anyways, back to the rest of the podcast.
Yeah. We've been talking about technology and a stadium for far too. We've talked about, one player who didn't score a try in that game. I want to talk about a player that did, Corey Thomas. Aussie-born, Canadian eligible. I think he had a pretty good game. Obviously, picking up the fourth try that secured LA's try bonus point. Not something to snub at. I would have talked more about DTH, but he only came off the bench. So I mean, I'm only joking. DTH, obviously, still a big fan.
But are you disappointed he didn't score a try? He's still on a try per game pace, Mr. River there.
Well, that's the Angus Cottrell has overtaken him for most tries scored by a Giltinis player. So.
Can't have that. He also got Cottrell also got player of the week. That dude was a monster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the name's completely slipped my mind, but he's recently returned for LA and had a huge impact throughout the game. Billy Meeks, that's it. No, he had a great performance as well.
Your favorite player too.
But any times Ryan James is on the field, he's going to have a good game. Like I think we all know that now. And a try assist for Harrison Goddard as well for that 7-pointer. I did find it funny. The commentary was saying like, "Oh, was he offside? Oh, but the try. Oh no, that's not offside. There's no issue with that." I'm like, well, if he'd been offside, then the try wouldn't have counted. But semantics at this point.
Shall we
talk about a different game at a different stadium?
Shall we embark down, continue in California? Why leave the state?
Yeah, let's say in California. Let's head to the Olympic training facility as well in Chula Vista.
Chula?
Am I pronouncing
that?
So. Sorry. Hang on. I need to get a towel. I'm wiping the egg off my face for choosing NOLA over San Diego. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, you went literally, I think everybody else did. San Diego 43, NOLA 17. Who would have saw that coming?
Oh my Lord. I mean, who would have thought that just being within 20 minutes of where they all live would suddenly make them all better players?
Africa 2 tries, McVeigh try, Peterson.
Oh, Peterson's try was
energy to score his try.
Scores his try. Goes off to recover for the next 35 minutes.
I loved everything about that try. The goal line stand, the turnover, Basson, I think, getting the ball out and Peterson just 100-meter dashing it. And then having enough energy to put up the conversion and then leave. Yeah. That was amazing. Just
arrive, raise hell, leave.
That was just it. Boys, my contribution is done. It's like, this game is yours.
Yeah.
We're winning by 25. You're not going to blow this.
I think one of the issues for both teams was in discipline, because there was 2 yellow cards apiece. And obviously, I think, San Diego did handle it better, because after they got their first yellow card, Africa scored another try. Now I'm going to be controversial here, and I'm going to say that...
Before you say that, though, just if you're going to... NOLA actually only took 6 penalties in this game. 33% of them happened to be yellow cards, but only 6.
Yeah. So I was trying to find, because obviously my former Osprey, Hanno Dirksen, got a yellow card as well in this game. And I was looking at that and I was like, I'm pretty sure I saw him getting hit. If he gets a yellow card, surely the other player that connected their arm, whether it was forearm or bicep, to his head should also be sent to the bin.
Refs always see the second one, man.
Yeah.
The comment, it's like a law of all contact sports. Always see the second.
But either way, I don't think it would have made much difference. But this is the San Diego that we remember from 2020.
Well, yes and no. I mean, Nola had kind of weird, like Nola had 61% possession, 57% territory. They couldn't, much like the first game against Old Glory, they could not score
Yeah.
once they got down there. And every single time San Diego touched the ball, they scored.
Oh yeah, no.
And as evidence of that Peterson try, where it's just like you bang away at the try line for like 5 minutes. They
Yeah.
get one turnover, and 15 seconds later, there's 7 points on the board.
Yeah.
But I think, which you kind of like, I mean, you look at this. Nola had 8. So with all that territory in possession, Nola had 18 turnovers. 18. It's disgustingly high.
Yeah. Well, you don't win games when you get turned over.
Yeah. They also only had 81% of their tackles made. So you're turning the ball over, and then when San Diego gets the ball, you can't hit anything.
Yeah.
So that was a problem. I think though in this game we got to shout out Michael Smith. The man has been he's been freed, and it's delightful. Second straight 80-minute shift. Oh my goodness. 23 tackles. 23 tackles made. He attempted 25, so still a really high percentage there. 18 offensive rucks, 9 opposition rucks. Man, he was unreal in this game, and just all over the pitch, immense work rate, made his tackles. San Diego did have to play quite a bit of defense in this game, and dude, like he was everywhere, man. He was a menace. He was an absolute nuisance for the team. I think he picked up like a line out steal at one point too.
Yeah.
Just absolute monster game from him. So it's like that's brilliant to see. And I mean, like, maybe learning a little something from his buddy Chris down there, but it's working out, man. Like it's kind of like his game that we saw at like UBC was just kind of like in a very, like, I guess a similar style of like Lucas Rumball kind of built players, right? Where they're just they're months. Like you get into a breakdown with them, you're going to lose. So it's great to see him kind of as a bit of a breakout game for him. I felt Bailey, Howard were okay. I mean, they played on a team that got blown out by over 20. So
so not so much you can talk about. Right, now we've talked about one game in Texas. Shall we talk about the other one?
Sure.
Okay, because now this is the thing. If you thought that Houston versus Toronto was a defensive effort and like a war of attrition, boy howdy, Austin was ready to be like, okay, we're gonna make it weirder.
Are you saying this is not the game that you would show your friend that hasn't seen rugby?
This is definitely not the game I would show my friend. This is the game I would show my rugby diehard purist friends, because I mean it started off well for New York. Hollinshead stepping up to the plate. I've also now realized it's been 2 whole games where New York haven't scored a try.
See, that's what I was kind of wondering. Like,
can they? Have they forgotten?
Can they score a try? But like, is this a concern for Rooney? They've gone like, well, I'm trying to think of when their last try was the game before. Well, like when they beat LA, or no, I guess when they beat LA, they didn't score any tries. So I'm just trying to figure out when their last try was before. Can't really think of it off the top of my head here, but it's been at least 160 minutes without scoring a try now.
Yeah, so the last game where they scored a try was against Seattle in the 72nd minute.
It's been 168 minutes since they've scored a try. Yeah, so that's a long time, man. Even Austin is not a very offensive team. Like, no. They're very good at what they do, which is why they're at the top or near the top of the standings, right? They're very good at playing defense. They're very good at winning lineouts. They're very good at like kicking for territory and controlling that, and they're very good at combining all 3 of those things into winning rugby games.
Yeah,
but like I don't know. Like even like in this game too, right? It's another one where it's like Rooney only had Rooney 41% possession. Like they're barely touching the ball. Um, the ball was in Rooney's half, deep in Rooney's half for most of the game too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like it's just especially for like a team like Rooney used to be able to like even earlier this season, like Dylan Fawcett is probably one of the best in the league, and everybody was always fearful of the Rooney lineout maul.
Yeah.
It's like they would destroy you, and then Fawcett would be among the league leaders in tries because he was the guy that capitalized on that all the time. And they're not even getting that they're not even getting that to go right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like obviously where they sit in the Eastern Conference standings, you wouldn't like it's one of those things though. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up the standings real quick here. Because it's I know people have been looking at their point differential, right? And being like, can you be minus 46 on point differential and maintain your spot at the top of the standings or whatever? And it's like, and I suppose you could because I know like they got blown out twice,
Yeah.
or whatever. So I mean, 2 of their 3 losses were blowouts. But they're 5-3 with a minus 24, or sorry, with a minus 46. So like Mike, it's like at what point though do you is that a reason for concern that you can't score and your point differential is that bad despite the fact that you're 5-3?
Yeah.
Because right in the last 2 games, like they don't have like we said, they don't have a try since. And
yeah. And that's the thing, that their next game is coming up against the Free Jacks. And we know that New York and New England get along so well in so many other sports.
Best friends.
But they're also going up against Dougie Fife.
Yeah.
One of the leading try scorers of 2021. And the question is, will you be able to stop him? Will you be able to counter him with tries of your own? Because even against Seattle, they scored only the 2 tries, I believe, if I can find the right. They scored 2 tries, and Seattle scored 3. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously they scored more points overall, but it's the same issue as in, points win games, and you've got to score more. And the best way to do that is tries. I also want to talk about, on the other side, I want to talk about Mac Mason. I thought that he had a pretty good game, matching Holland's head for kicks. And yeah, right. Shall we? Let's move closer to the home away from home, back in the snake pit this time with Atlanta and the aforementioned Free Jacks. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, I mean, like I thought it was kind of close, and then Atlanta kind of pulled away toward the end of the game. It was like from a Canadian perspective and stuff, it was it was all right. Heaton was okay. Larson was also okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of like I don't think the score kind of does this game justice too much.
I mean, when you get 2 yellow cards on the 70-minute mark, it's never going to look good.
Exactly. Like that's what I mean. Like right then they pulled away. I thought it was kind of interesting though with like I think the New England set piece really, really struggled throughout the game too, right? The scrums were not good. And then obviously like, guys like Johan Momsen and Manuel Diana, kind of made absolute nuisances of themselves at their line out too. And, it wasn't necessarily overly effective for New England. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still like I don't even know how to. I feel like Atlanta still plays one of the best defensive systems in the league, and it kind of goes to show. I feel like they're one of those teams that kind of almost kind of like the Springboks are incredibly comfortable playing without the ball, and it's one of those games that kind of shows it.
Okay, and that leaves us with the final fixture of the weekend, DC versus Seattle. Seattle started strong. I'll admit. And then DC were able to get back in, and then Seattle scored again, and more penalties, and then Ross Neal's try. And then, and then obviously Threat and Palamo scored to even everything, to get back within 1 point. And then Sonsei Feige scored in the second half, but that was the only score. And this is the thing. I want to say, like, obviously from a Canadian perspective, congratulations to Doug for scoring the second try. But it did
tries in back-to-back games since you returned the lineup.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's almost kind of like, you are on paper scored the try, but it was really, oh my god, his name's skipping from me.
Tusitala?
Sorry. Tusitala, did all this sprinting and probably could have scored that try himself. Obviously, being very selfless and, drawing in the defender to offload to Doug. It's one of those tries I'm like on the fence about. It was a good try, but did the right person score? I mean, from a team perspective, it's like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. But, they won. That's what matters.
Yeah. It's after a successful game against San Diego the previous week. Seattle have just fallen back into another rut. And, I'm not saying like the game last week was, this is the Seattle we've known since 2019, stuff like that. We're now back into Seattle from 2020 again. It's not great. It's disappointing to see, but
kind of a weird season for them too.
Yeah.
Another game too that Old Glory won this game without having much of the territory too. So
yeah,
it is what it is, man. Seattle had 16 turnovers to Old Glory's 9, so almost nearly double, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's been such a weird season for Seattle, and I know like they're kind of getting some reinforcements now, and maybe there's still some hope that they can kind of turn it around. But Old Glory too, man. Very interesting season. Like I feel like they're kind of playing well, but they're just trapped in the Eastern Conference, and need something to kind of pull them out of the basement at some point.
Well, interesting for Seattle is that their bye week is round 11, with 2 weeks up. So they have one more game. It'll be against ATL at Starfire, and then they have their final bye week. So I don't know if that will make them better in the long term, or just keep
also like
gloss over the problems.
The schedule is so weird too. Like there's so many teams that had a home loaded first half of the season that are going to be on the road the whole time, and there's a lot of teams that are the opposite of that, right? Like I think it's
I think that's an issue to do with like local climates and things like that, and it's more manageable for certain teams to play at certain locations.
Yeah, is it NOLA that has a 6-game road trip?
I'm just looking at the overall list, and of course I go to the 1 week where NOLA have a bye, but 1, 2, 3 by 4, 5, definitely 5. Let me just check.
5 games.
6. Yep.
That's
their last home game is June 5th.
Like I think even like the Arrows and stuff too. I know like Rumball did an interview with Ben Foden on like the Rugby Network, and he was even kind of talking about like they do have a lot of home games in the second half. So even for them, like, home away from home, but it's going to be nice to at least just not have to travel every week. Even one of the games already this year, they had to play in NOLA too, right? So they traveled to a home game. But I feel like, we don't have too much time left, Stu. So what would you say we move on to some news stuff?
Yes, let's get straight into the news. So, from Rugby Canada, they have had their AGM and they have a new board of directors for 2021-22. Some familiar faces are Phil Otto, Karen Parkin, Jeff Hassler as the player representative, Isabel Livia, David Fortier, Bill Webb, Maria Sampson as the governance committee chair, Steve Swaffield as the treasurer and finance/audit committee chair, and taking over from Tim Powers is Sally Dennis, the first woman who is the chairperson for Rugby Canada. So congratulations to everyone on the board. In other news, if I can find my notes, there they are. We have Rugby Sevens has now officially been included in the 2025 Canada Games that will take place in St. John's, Newfoundland. It's weird to be talking about future sporting events and not seeing the idea of them being cancelled because of COVID. So here's hoping we're in a situation where we can book a holiday to Newfoundland and witness Rugby Seven, men's and women's Rugby Sevens take place on Canadian soil. Oh, it feels weird to say. It just feels weird even me saying it. It's but if we're talking about rugby on Canadian soil, hopefully we'll be able to experience that this year because World Rugby have confirmed the Rugby World Cup 2023 pathway for the Americas. So I'm just going to explain the route that Canada will be taking. And, you know, I hope I can explain this as clearly as possible. If not, tough. Okay, so Canada will face the United States. They'll face in Canada. They'll play them in Canada on September the 4th and away on September the 11th. The winner will become Rugby Americas North 1 or RAN 1, and the loser will become RAN 2. At the same time this is going on, there'll be a competition in South America for South America 1 and South America 2. So RAN 1 will face SAR 1 on October the 2nd and 9th, and the aggregate winner of both will become America's 1 for that pool stage. Now, these dates haven't been confirmed, but the other thing will be then RAN 2 will face South America 2 on home and away, and the aggregate will then face the loser of the America's 1 competition. And that winner will become America's 2. And the person who lost the America's 2 match will then go into the repechage tournament. So, Derek, it's a different pathway to what we're used to. There's a guarantee of facing South American opposition as opposed to the US or Canada being America's 1. What do you make of it? And what do you think Canada's chances are to either be America's 1, America's 2 in the repechage tournament, or, God forbid, knocked out?
Oh God, I hope we're not getting knocked out. That's like doomsday. That's doomsday scenario there, Stu. I think like in every year, so it's like, I guess like step one, always just beat the United States is always like, that's a good start. If you can pull that off, it does kind of, I do, in all honesty, really like the idea of, more South American teams kind of being incorporated in, as opposed to just like win or lose against the United States. And that determines if you're going to like the repechage or not. So like, I mean, I do like it. I think, the South America in teams like, what I mean, like Uruguay, even like Brazil, Chile. Like, I think that'll be a fascinating tournament to watch too. I'd probably back like the thing is right is like I would back Uruguay to probably come out on top in that, and then like and I think you kind of look at like Uruguay has done a lot of damage to Canada and even the United States in recent years. So I think like that America's 1 spot, I think, what I mean, like there's, if you get by the United States, you still got to deal with Uruguay, so that's going to be a challenge, I think. And right, so it's, I think, maybe you got to go into it or whatever. Like, it's interesting that the loser still gets a shot to be America's 2. If I'm reading that, or if you explain that correct. So
So whoever doesn't become America's 1 will face the next level of competition, and if they win that game or that set of games, they'll become America's 2.
So it almost seems like, I don't know, is my math right? Like if Canada beats the United States, or the winner of that game, we'll just say, like if the winner of that game, I feel like, do you get like an extra shot at qualifying? Is that how that ends up kind of working out?
So it's a series because each game will be home and away. So
yeah, but like
let's say Canada becomes Rugby America North 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they face we'll say Uruguay for the sake of simplicity, and on aggregate Uruguay beats them. Canada that will then face either the US and this is a team that I think is going to be South America Rugby 2, Chile.
Okay.
And and they'll have a series. I think they should have that at the same time, because why not? And just makes it a bit easier. But that's obviously for World Rugby to decide.
So then,
and then the America's 2 series playoff that hasn't been given a date. All we know for sure, it's definitely before November 2022, which will be the repechage tournament. So let's say if Canada beats the United States in their first series and then loses their second series to Uruguay, they would then have the opportunity to play either, let's say, USA or Chile, and the winner of that series will become America's 2.
You know what? I think hearing you explain it like that, that's a harder road, I think, than previous World Cups.
And this is the thing, it's like, obviously we know how well Uruguay have done, but having seen the South American 4 Nations tournament last year, Chile are contenders. I know people are talking about like, oh, Brazil has come a long way. Chile's actually they built a high performance center. It's come along. Now, I will explain, all those games were those national teams like 15, so they were uncapped games, but they beat Brazil and they beat Uruguay, and they were within I think it was 1 or 2 points of beating Argentina as well. So now obviously, again, no squad had a full national 15, but I guess if there is a team that is going to fill that South American rugby second place, my money's on Chile. I think I'm going to be watching that tournament regardless. I think it's going to be one anyone to watch, but my money is on Chile going second. I will make an apology if they get eliminated before they even make the tournament to decide who's going to become South American too. But I think they're playing Paraguay, who's a good 20 or so places below. Again, we're just trying to focus on Canada's involvement. Right. So I know that the Arrows aren't playing this week, so none of these really matter. But it is time for predictions.
All right.
So let us explain. So the time is, so we're recording this on Wednesday, and it's less than 30 minutes to the kickoff of the Austin versus LA game.
Despite the fact that people are going to know.
Yeah.
I know we put it up, but what do you think?
So I've said, based on their defensive stats so far this season, I'm going to go with Austin.
Yeah. Best offense versus best defense, right? So, I mean, I'm going to go with LA though. And realistically, I think LA's offense, could prove to be too much once again, because they been kind of a juggernaut force this year. But I also mostly picked it because you and Dan both said Austin, and I thought that was nuts.
We're not. You know who else?
Austin.
But do you know who else went with Austin? Who didn't go with Austin and went with LA? The Toonie.
Toonie's a smart.
So that decision was made prior to recording this podcast, and definitely prior to the release of it.
See what happens. Everyone's going to know the result of that by the time this actually gets released. All right.
So we have the Saturday. So do you want to explain about Daniel's situation?
Yeah. So Dan's not here. And I guess celebrating the birthday. So he just sent us our picks. So we got Dan picked Utah in the Utah versus NOLA match.
Mhm.
Stu, what do you say?
I think NOLA do have an edge when they're at home. I think it's, but then again, they also lost to Austin at the gold mine, and Utah have, they managed to get the bonus point against LA, which shows they played for the full 80 minutes, or even to be more accurate, the full 82 minutes that they played. They also came off a great win against DC again because they played to the full 80 minutes, and um, especially after a game that everyone predicted that NOLA would have walked all over San Diego. Maybe the gold isn't shining as brightly as we once thought. So, you know what? I'm going to go with Utah.
Nice. You know what? You and Dan both said Utah, so I'm going to go with NOLA because
all right. The contrarian.
NOLA's really good at home.
And shall we find out what the Toonie says? Again, heads for home, tails for away. It's going for Utah.
Utah, all right. The battle of two of the best looking kits in Major League Rugby. The SaberCats versus Old Glory DC.
Okay, and we should explain that Dan has gone for DC. Derek, who do you have?
Despite the fact that their defense played well last week, even though they still lost. So I guess maybe they could have played better or should have played better. I don't really know. I don't know. I still don't have much faith in Houston's defense, man. And Tusitala as the scrum half. That's I feel like that's going to be a problem for them. So I gotta go DC on this one. Of course,
well, I'm glad
that Houston's defense is bad once again. Probably means that DC gets shut out in this game.
Yeah, so this is another trip to the Aviva. But as was proven this weekend just gone, that being home doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a win. And, you know what? I'm going for DC as well. I think that DC have just been playing better recently. Obviously, their games against LA and Utah didn't go the way they wanted to, but they have a good attacking pace. They have good defensive pace when it's definitely needed. And yeah, I'm going to go with DC. Now, the Toonie says, let's not fall over. It's unanimous. It's DC.
DC, even the Toonie knows that.
Okay, now we're going for the battle for the Northeast because we have New York versus New England. And Dan went for New York. And this time we'll go for the Toonie. The Toonie can speak first. You know what I mean. The Toonie is going for New England.
Toonie's let me down a couple times this year, so I'm going to go with Rooney.
Rooney, okay.
Rooney also can't hope. I'm also banking on the fact that Rooney scores a try at some point during this.
Yeah, I think that's the issue at this point. Yeah, this one was tough as well. I had to consult the Toonie beforehand, and I wasn't entirely sure which way to go. Because that's the thing, is that New York would normally I would back them, but their recent form in the past couple of games has just been kick for the post. Now, obviously, against LA, that was more to do with the weather. But, I really think they could have made a bigger impact against Austin. You know what? I'm going to go for New England. Let's have some fun. Oh, as long as Dougie Fife scores, I'm all right.
Oh, Dougie Fife can score.
All right.
Death taxes, Dougie Fife scores.
Okay, we are going for the final game of the round. It is Seattle at home versus Atlanta.
I think Atlanta's kind of rolling right now. I think their defense Their defense reminds me of what we all used to think Seattle's defense once was. They need a cool nickname though, and I don't know, man. I still just kind of feel like much like, to me, still, like, why would you ever pick against LA? Although I think Austin can give them a nice little run here. Still, like, to me, it's just why, like, I just can't. I feel like I just can't justify choosing Seattle in against any team in the league at this point. So I know we're gonna.
Yeah, no, I think. I think Seattle had the chance this past weekend to prove that they were still like the team from 2019. They still had the capabilities to perform, but I was just left disappointed. So I'm going with Atlanta as well. But
they're back at Starfire, though. I think Starfire makes a difference to them a little bit. That game against Old Glory, I don't think we mentioned it, but that was basically at like 9 a.m. for them too.
Okay, well, as I was flipping the coin, I had a bit of a screen freeze, and I think it's because it's a very controversial decision, considering we've all gone for Atlanta. The Toonie went for Seattle. Well, I think we've talked about enough rugby for one night, and so Derek, where can people find the podcast? Where can they interact with us?
Yeah, so you can find the podcast at Rouge Rugby on your favorite social media network. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all the same at Rouge Rugby. You can email us too if you want at rougerugbypodcast@gmail.com. I kind of set up the email address, although I don't really use it for a whole lot. So you know what? Why not put it out there? Maybe we'll get some use out of having it. And then I know for myself, I do a lot of like match reports and articles based on the Arrows games on Layman Sports. And Stu, I know you do a bunch of videos at the end of every week on Hardline Rugby. So look up those channels as well. And dude, we got a game to go watch in like 20 minutes here. So
so got to get ready. So Derek, thank you for joining me this week. To Dan and Kat, happy respective birthdays. And to those of you listening and watching, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.